After nearly a year of war, the Americans still had not declared their independence from Great Britain. By John Adams' reckoning, only 1/3 of the colonists were for the rebellion. Another third were against it, and the remaining third were indifferent.
The image that the American Revolution was a spontaneous mass uprising of united souls who possibly from birth yearned to be an independent nation is not at all true. Far fewer people were willing to break with the king. Some didn't really feel that the revolution was merited.
Even within Congress, meeting at the Pennsylvania State House, some delegates still argued for mending the rift with England. But soon, the radicals pushing for independence would get an unexpected boost from King George himself. In January of 1776, ships arrived from England carrying the past year's news. The king had announced to Parliament 3 months earlier that he was gathering a huge force to crush the rebellion. On June 7, 1776, Congressional Delegate Richard Henry Lee, a tobacco planter from Virginia, rose to offer the inevitable resolution.
That these united colonies are free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown.
They wish to make a declaration of independence, not only for the sake of the civilian population who would see this break, would realize what it was for and would support it, but perhaps above all, for foreign opinion, so that other countries could formally note that these colonies had set up their own independent government and therefore, crucially, could negotiate with foreign governments, could contract alliances, and could receive aid.
Congress appointed a 5-man committee to draft a Declaration of Independence, among them Benjamin Franklin and John Adams. But none of the senior members wanted the tedious job of writing it. The document itself, they believed, would be an historical footnote, a technicality. So the task was foisted on the committee's youngest member, 33-year-old Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson didn't want the job either. His mother had recently died, and he had just returned from Virginia after being bedridden for 6 weeks with a migraine headache. Nevertheless, during 2 hot June days and nights, in a second-story rented room, Jefferson bent over his portable writing table and produced the first draft of the most enduring protest document in the history of the free world. Jefferson's words, though magnificent, were not wholly original. He borrowed from his Virginia neighbor, George Mason, who in turn had borrowed from the 17th century British philosopher John Locke. Just weeks earlier, Mason had written in the preamble to the Virginia Constitution that all men by nature are equally free and independent and have certain inherent rights, namely the enjoyment of life and liberty.
There's nothing new in the Declaration of Independence. If its arguments hadn't been familiar and understandable, it wouldn't have been a very powerful document of justification. What you might say was radical about it was, after all, it was an initial formal statement of the first of the modern revolutions against king government and an established legitimate constitution.